Top 10 businesses like RV parks that quietly make millions. What if some of the most profitable businesses in America aren't the businesses you see on television? They're not glamorous tech startups. They're not luxury brands. They're not trendy restaurants packed with influencers. Some of them are parking spaces, storage units, laundry machines, small roadside properties, vending machines, and even patches of land where people park their RVs. These businesses rarely make headlines, but behind their ordinary appearance is a surprisingly powerful economic model. People need them, they use them repeatedly, and once the infrastructure is in place, the owner can potentially collect revenue again and again. Today, we're looking at 10 businesses that operate on a similar principle to RV parks, businesses that may look boring from the outside, but can generate serious cash flow when managed correctly. And the most interesting part isn't simply how much money they can make, it's why these businesses work. Because sometimes the less exciting a business looks, the more interesting its economics become. Number 10. Laundromats. Let's start with a business almost everyone understands. Laundry. You wash your clothes, you put them in a machine, you pay, you leave. There's no complicated app, no massive sales team, no expensive product launch. Yet, laundromats can have an interesting business model because the customer isn't really buying a product. They're buying access to equipment. The owner provides washing machines, dryers, utilities, a physical location, and maintenance. Customers provide the revenue. And unlike many traditional businesses, the same machines can serve hundreds of different customers over their lifetime. Imagine a laundromat with dozens of machines operating throughout the day. Every cycle generates revenue. The machines don't need to be completely rebuilt between customers. They simply need to keep working. That's the core economic idea. The owner invests heavily up front in the equipment and property, but once everything is operational, each additional customer doesn't require the business to manufacture a new product. Of course, laundromats aren't effortless. Electricity, water, rent, equipment repairs, insurance, cleaning, security, and labor can consume a significant portion of revenue. But the model remains attractive because laundry isn't a luxury. People can postpone buying a new car, they can cancel a vacation, but eventually they have to wash their clothes. And that's an incredibly powerful characteristic for any business. Number 9. Self-storage facilities. Now, imagine a business where your customers rent something they don't even live in, a small room, a metal container, a storage unit. Self-storage is another example of an extremely simple economic concept. People accumulate things. Apartments become smaller. Businesses need extra inventory space. Families move. People inherit furniture and suddenly they need somewhere to put everything. The storage company provides the space. The customer pays every month. And unlike a traditional retailer, the company doesn't need to constantly purchase inventory to sell. The inventory belongs to the customer. That's what makes the economics interesting. A storage facility can have dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of individual units. Each unit can generate recurring monthly revenue. And once the facility is built and occupied, operating expenses can be relatively predictable compared with businesses that depend heavily on inventory turnover. But location matters enormously. A storage facility in the middle of nowhere may struggle. A facility near growing neighborhoods, apartment complexes, businesses, and densely populated areas can have much stronger demand. The real asset isn't just a storage unit. It's the combination of land, location, infrastructure, and recurring customers. And that brings us closer to the economics of RV parks, because in both businesses, the owner is essentially monetizing space. Number 8. Parking lots. Here's a business that almost looks too simple to be real. A parking lot. It's just pavement. But in the right location, pavement can become extremely valuable. Think about a major downtown district. There are offices, restaurants, hotels, hospitals, stadiums, airports, entertainment venues. Thousands of people arrive every day, but there is only a limited amount of land available to park their cars. That creates a classic economic principle. Limited supply plus steady demand equals valuable access. The parking lot owner isn't necessarily selling anything physical. They're selling permission to use a small piece of land for a limited amount of time. One customer parks for an hour, another arrives, another parks overnight. And in busy locations, the same physical space can generate revenue repeatedly. Technology has also transformed the industry. Digital payment systems, license plate recognition, mobile apps, automated gates, dynamic pricing, and reservation systems can make parking operations more efficient. But the underlying business hasn't changed much. The asset is land. The product is access, and the customer pays for convenience. The biggest challenge, once again, is location. A huge parking lot in the area nobody visits isn't necessarily valuable. A small parking lot next to a stadium can be incredibly valuable. That's the hidden lesson. Sometimes you're not buying a business, you're buying access to a scarce location. Number 7. Car washes. At first glance, a car wash looks like a service business, and it is. But modern automated car washes can also behave like infrastructure businesses. A customer arrives, they pay, a machine does much of the work, the customer drives away. There may be employees involved, but compared with many labor-intensive businesses, automation can dramatically reduce the amount of human work required for each transaction. And that's where the economics become interesting. The equipment can wash hundreds or thousands of cars over its operating life. The customer doesn't buy the machine. They simply buy a wash. Some businesses also use membership programs. Instead of charging a customer once, they encourage customers to pay a recurring monthly fee for unlimited or frequent washes. That transforms the revenue model. A customer who might have spent a small amount occasionally can become a recurring subscriber. Of course, car washes face serious expenses. Land can be expensive. Equipment requires maintenance. Water and electricity cost money. Environmental regulations matter, and competition can be intense. But the underlying demand is straightforward. People own cars. Cars get dirty, and many people are willing to pay someone else to clean them. It's another example of a simple, recurring need being converted into a scalable business. Number 6. Vending machine routes. Now let's shrink the business down dramatically. Forget buildings, forget large properties. Imagine owning a collection of machines, vending machines. The concept is incredibly simple. You place a machine somewhere with consistent foot traffic, people want a snack or drink, they insert money or pay digitally, the machine delivers the product. The owner earns the difference between the selling price and the cost of the inventory, after accounting for expenses. But here's where it gets interesting. One vending machine may not generate extraordinary income. The economics become more powerful when you have many machines in strategic locations. Instead of thinking about one machine, think about a network. 10 machines, 50 machines, 100 machines. Now you're operating a route. The owner can visit multiple locations, restock inventory, collect data, identify which products sell, and remove machines that underperform. The business becomes a small distribution network, and because the machines are spread across multiple locations, revenue isn't necessarily dependent on one storefront. But location remains king. A vending machine inside a busy factory may perform very differently from one sitting in an empty hallway. The lesson is similar to parking lots and RV parks. The physical asset matters, but the location of that asset may matter even more. Number 5. Self-service car washes. Now we're taking the car wash concept one step further. Self-service car washes. Self-service car washes can operate with relatively little staff compared with traditional detailing businesses. Customers arrive and do much of the work themselves. They pay to use the equipment. The owner provides the property, water systems, pressure washers, vacuums, payment infrastructure, and maintenance. It's a fascinating model because the customer becomes part of the labor process. Instead of paying an employee to wash the car from start to finish, the customer operates the equipment. That can potentially reduce labor requirements. The business still has plenty of challenges. Equipment breaks. Water costs money, cleaning is necessary, vandalism and security can be concerns, and weather can influence demand. But the fundamental economics remain attractive because the infrastructure can serve many customers. And just like an RV park, the business is essentially monetizing physical infrastructure. A piece of land becomes useful because customers need access to something. In one case, it's a place to park an RV. In another, it's equipment and space to clean a vehicle. Different business, same underlying economic principle. Number 4. Boat and RV storage. Now we're getting even closer to our original example, RV storage and boat storage. Millions of people own large recreational vehicles and boats. But here's the problem. Not everyone has enough space at home to store them. Some neighborhoods don't allow it. Some driveways aren't large enough. Some homeowners simply don't want a massive vehicle sitting outside their house. That creates demand for specialized storage. And from the owner's perspective, the business can be relatively straightforward. Acquire or lease suitable land, improve the property, add security, create parking spaces, market the facility, then charge customers recurring fees. Notice the similarity. You're not necessarily manufacturing anything. You're renting access to space, and space is finite. That can make land-based businesses particularly interesting. The challenge is that land isn't cheap everywhere. Development costs can be substantial. Zoning regulations can be complicated. Security is important because customers are trusting you with expensive vehicles. But in markets with strong recreational vehicle ownership, specialized storage can create a recurring revenue stream. The key is understanding the local market before buying the land, because a business built around storage only works if people nearby actually need storage. Number 3. Mobile home parks. Now we move into one of the more misunderstood businesses on the list, mobile home parks. The basic model is different from a traditional apartment complex, and it is. Instead of necessarily owning every home, the park owner may own the land and infrastructure, while residents own or rent the individual homes. The park provides the location. Residents pay for the right to live there, and that creates recurring income. From the owner's perspective, one of the attractions can be that the business is heavily connected to the value of the underlying land and infrastructure. Roads, utilities, common areas, drainage, lighting, management. The homes themselves may not be the entire economic story. The land is, and that's important. When people think about real estate, they often imagine luxury apartments or office towers. But some of the most interesting real estate businesses focus on affordable, practical housing. The demand can be driven by something incredibly fundamental. People need somewhere to live. However, mobile home parks also come with significant responsibilities and regulatory considerations. Owners have to maintain infrastructure, comply with local rules, manage tenant relationships, and deal with ongoing property expenses. It's not passive money. But when operated efficiently, the recurring nature of the revenue can make the model attractive. Number 2. RV parks. And now we return to where we started, RV parks. Imagine owning a large piece of land. Instead of simply holding it, you turn it into a destination. You create spaces where RV owners can stay. You may provide electricity, water, sewer connections, roads, showers, laundry, Wi-Fi, recreation areas, perhaps even a small store. Now the land isn't simply land. It's an income-producing asset, and that's the economic transformation. A piece of property becomes a platform for recurring transactions. A customer arrives and stays for one night. Another stays for a week. Another stays for several months. The owner collects revenue based on the space and services provided. And the most interesting part is that RV parks can have multiple revenue streams. The obvious one is the site fee, but there can also be laundry revenue, propane, convenience stores, food and beverages, activities, premium sites, long-term stays, additional services. This is why an RV park isn't simply a parking lot. It's closer to a small hospitality ecosystem. But there are major risks. Land acquisition can be expensive, construction and infrastructure can cost millions, utilities must be managed, weather can affect demand, seasonality can be significant, and local zoning laws can determine whether the project is even possible. So while RV parks can be profitable, the economics depend heavily on location, occupancy, pricing, operating costs, financing, and management. The real opportunity isn't simply owning land, it's turning land into useful infrastructure that people repeatedly pay to access. And that brings us to number 1. Self-storage, parking, and land-based hybrid businesses. The most powerful model isn't necessarily one specific business, it's the combination. Think about a property that offers multiple services from the same underlying land: RV storage, boat storage, self-storage, parking, vehicle storage, commercial space, perhaps even small retail or service facilities. Why is this model so interesting? Because you're trying to increase the amount of economic value generated by the same physical asset. Imagine owning 10 acres. If the land produces income from only one activity, you're relying on one revenue stream. But if zoning, demand, and infrastructure allow multiple complementary uses, the same property can potentially generate revenue from several customer groups. This is where sophisticated property operators begin thinking differently. They don't just ask, how much does this land cost? They ask, how much cash flow can this land potentially produce? That's a completely different question, and that explains why seemingly boring businesses can become incredibly valuable. The secret isn't always the product. Sometimes the secret is the asset underneath the business. So what do laundromats, storage facilities, parking lots, car washes, vending machines, mobile home parks, and RV parks have in common? They all demonstrate a powerful principle. People don't always spend money on exciting things. They spend money on necessary things. They pay for convenience. They pay for access. They pay for storage. They pay for transportation-related services. They pay for places to live. They pay for places to park. They pay for infrastructure they don't want to build themselves. And that's why boring businesses can be so interesting. A trendy business may depend on attention. A boring business may depend on necessity. A restaurant needs customers to choose it over dozens of alternatives. A storage facility simply needs people who have too much stuff and nowhere to put it. A parking lot doesn't need to convince people that cars exist. A laundromat doesn't need to convince people that clothes get dirty. An RV park doesn't need to create the desire for travel. It simply provides infrastructure for people who already have that desire. That's the hidden power of these businesses. They sit underneath everyday life. And because they are often tied to physical assets, they can potentially create recurring revenue for years. But there's one final warning. None of these businesses are automatic money machines. The internet is full of stories about supposedly passive businesses generating huge profits. The reality is much more complicated. A bad location can destroy a good business model. High debt can destroy cash flow. Poor management can destroy customer relationships. Unexpected repairs can destroy margins. Regulations can change. Competition can appear. And expensive real estate can turn a profitable-looking business into a financial burden. The people who succeed in these industries aren't simply buying machines or land. They're buying assets with a clear economic purpose. They're studying demand. They're calculating operating costs. They're understanding financing. They're managing risk. And most importantly, they're asking one question again and again. Why will customers keep paying for this? Because that's the foundation of every great business. Not hype, not popularity, not a flashy logo. Demand. If customers need what you provide and you can deliver it efficiently, profit becomes possible. And sometimes the most powerful businesses are hiding in plain sight. A parking space, a storage unit, a washing machine, a vending machine, a patch of land, or an RV site beside a highway. They may look boring, but behind them can be some of the most fascinating economics in the business world. And that is the real lesson. You don't always need to build the next big thing to build a big business. Sometimes you just need to own something people repeatedly need. And that's exactly why these 10 boring businesses deserve far more attention than they usually get.